I can get this thing to go. Come on now. What am I doing wrong? Yeah, I'm in the technical world.
Yeah, it said it's in progress.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, that's what mine said. I pressed, got it.
Mine's saying paused.
Oh,
okay. Hey guys, it's Coach Tim SEO, Coach Tim Football, and I'm Jack today because I've got Hue Jackson, the new Grambling football coach, and he's here to share with us. He's here to bottle his excellence for us so that we can get some of those Hue Jackson pills. So, hey Hue, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Tim, it's an honor and a pleasure.
It's same here. I'm Jack for you, and I'm really happy for your new job. I've loved watching you over the years. What's cool about an old friend and that's public like yourself is you get to see what they're doing all the time, and even though people are busy and they don't get to talk, so I really appreciate you. So help me out here. So just to kind of quickly catch up to now, you're a husband, right? You're a father, family man, professional football coach, entrepreneur. I think I saw some entrepreneurial stuff going on when you were taking that time off, right? You got your
yes, you did.
Your own wine company and
tequila.
Tequila. Oh wow, that could be dangerous for me. Okay, and you are the new Grambling football coach. And for those that we have, because we have a diverse audience, business people, people from the coaching community, of course, and then also people just interested in mindset and being better. So what I'm really looking at is how to model your processes, get a little glimpse in there of what makes you the difference that makes the difference. So welcome. Let's just start this off where at the beginning. What got you started in football?
Well, I think when I walk back through my career, my journey, I should say, I was always just in love with football. You know, obviously played it at the highest levels in high school, had aspirations just like any young kid. When you're playing high school football, you see yourself playing in the National Football League someday. Then went to the University of Pacific with you and realized that I wasn't going to be a player, but I loved the game so much. I wanted to stay connected to it. So I got involved in coaching. And so coaching has really kind of fashioned my life in such a way to give me some unbelievable opportunities. I've coached some unbelievable players and been around some unbelievable people, but there's been a process to getting there.
Very cool. Once you left Pacific, can you go through a quick kind of resume of spots that you went to? I think you started at Pacific as a GA and then ended up in Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I started at Pacific as a GA, as you just mentioned, left Pacific, went to Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, and then
I didn't know that. State
Fullerton. Yeah, I went from Cal State Fullerton to Europe.
Okay.
And then after Europe, back to Cal State Fullerton. And then from Cal State Fullerton to Arizona State, from Arizona State to Cal, from Cal to USC. And then after USC, I started my NFL, my NFL run.
That is awesome. And impressive. I mean, it's quite a diverse experience level that you've been through. Let's get into some of the nitty gritty here. Right off the top, do you believe? I assume you do, because this is your career, that football is important for young men of all ages, and why is that?
I really do believe that football is really important because it teaches a couple of things. It teaches team, because you're involved in a team, but it also challenges you to push yourself to limits you never thought you could go to. And it teaches so many mental and physical things that I think a person needs to stay sharp, to stay committed, to stay determined, to fashion desire in order to be something. And it brings value to your life. It really does.
Yeah. And that's true at a kid level, right? But you're dealing with college guys now, and you've dealt with grown men, right? I mean,
Mhm.
what's the
Mhm.
oldest guy you've ever coached? I got to ask
Probably
that.
the oldest guy I probably ever coached was 36, 37.
Wow.
Stan Gilbaugh in the World League. Yeah.
That's classic. So let me ask you this. What's the difference in a guy that old versus the guy just coming into the league, NFL or pro at what, 22 maybe or something
Hmm.
like that?
Hmm.
There's a lot of difference, right? In maturity.
Oh, yeah. The older veteran has learned what it takes from a skill part of it to make himself special, to have his value within the organization. The young player that's drafted, he's drafted on the team for a skill level that he brings to the team, and he's looking for the next contract.
Yeah.
He has to find his way in order to, from a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual capacity on how to get inside of that locker room with real grown men whose futures and families and their mothers and fathers and uncles and aunties depend on what this young rookie does. So the young rookie is seen as the wild coat that comes in. He's the savior of everything, and some of them are. And the veteran is there to kind of help shape him and show him the way on how to become a pro.
Interesting. Here's a question I don't think I didn't discuss earlier. There's a thing in the NFL of the 87%, right?
Mhm.
And how do we as coaches change that? Because or does it need changing? They're professionals and it's their problem afterwards. But I mean, if we are to care about individuals long term, what can we do? You do, and your friends, and I say we because, but I'm a youth guy. What could the youth do? Because I see that the game needs some serious help locally in at the youth level. It's sort of in disarray, and I would say maybe from a goal oriented way, a way to use football not just so, hey, little Johnny in the 8th grade or 7th grade, someday you're going to play in the league, right? And there's
Mhm.
guys saying that at that age. The coaches are
Mhm.
saying that, which I've always steered away from any of that. Just have big goals, and that's enough for an 8th grader to know about. But
Mhm.
and that's causing what I would call corruption on the lower levels that are unprecedented to when we were growing up. So, without getting too airy fairy and too spiritual and religiousy and all that kind of stuff, what can we do at all levels to start making this thing last? Because it is important. It makes right.
Absolutely, Tim. It's very important, but I think you just said it. It's become so competitive at the younger levels to where it's really about making your son the next Tom Brady or creating a next Odell Beckham Jr. We forget about the learning, the understanding the game, respecting the game, trying to become good at what we do. Even the struggle, the hard work that it takes. I've seen parents take kids out of one team because he's not getting any reps over here and move them over to another team because they think they're going to get reps and they still didn't get any reps. So we got to make sure that the parents first are educated and understand that every kid is not going to turn into the next NFL top player or the next even college player. I mean, because there's so many steps to get there. And as you know, injuries and things happen. Let's make sure that we're still teaching our kids about education, understanding what sports brings to the table, but making sure that we keep sports in its rightful place where it belongs. And if a kid is talented enough to get there, great. But if he isn't, he shouldn't lose value because he doesn't make it, or there shouldn't be any mental health issues because he doesn't make it. It shouldn't be that your parents don't like you any less because you didn't become a professional player or a college player. They're still children and they're our children, and we got to pour the right things into them.
And they still are, right? I think a man's brain doesn't stop growing or maturing or whatever, as one of my wife's friends likes to remind me all the time, that until they're like 25 or 6 or something, right?
No, and they don't. I mean, my brain is still growing, learning. You know,
Amen,
now I
brother,
don't know
on that.
how many more years I have on this thing, but I'm always trying to stay as sharp as I can and trying to learn new things and adapt. And there's new things I've learned that I don't want to do, and there's new things I've learned that I'm excited to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think we're all trying to learn and get better and grow. And I think you never want to stop doing that. One of my greatest teachers, and it's a little off subject, the reason why I feel that way, because being around Al Davis, to the day he passed, he never lost his faculties. And the man was brilliant. We could have conversations about football. I'm talking about the minute details of the game. He never lost that. And so I hope to model that as I get older, that I can still talk the way I talk now, and I might not look the same, but I still want to be able to have those kind of conversations.
Oh, that's precious. I appreciate that nugget. Because my next question was that I've always said I stand, whatever I've got is from standing on the shoulders of other coaches, and also guys like you that I've met over the years that I've had access to that have impacted me, players that I've played with. Who are some of the guys? You just named one. Name some other ones that have impacted you and led you, and you drive from every day.
Right. There's so many
I'm sure
that I've come across. I got to go back and start with the Bruce Snyders of the world, and the John Robinsons of the world, and then the Marty Schottenheimers of the world, and the John Harbaughs, and the Al Davises, on to who was my best friend, Marvin Lewis, who has really shown me a whole different world. And in this world, what I think people need to realize, you need a team of people. You can't do it by yourself. And you take little pieces of things from people, not that you emulate them or you become them. It's just things that you add to who you are, the man you want to be or the woman you want to be, and you understand what's right and what's wrong. And you try to find a way to find your niche, because it should be authentic. It should come from you. It doesn't have to come from anybody else. But I think you're going to run into people that impact you in such a way that you won't forget it. And they will impact you mentally, they'll impact you emotionally, they'll impact you physically. And I think that's part of what life's challenges are.
And that's really in essence, the value of football. And it sounds to me like you're living it. I mean, truly, you're not just a figurehead. You're living the football lifestyle. That's awesome. First off, before we go any further, I wanted to mention Scotty Moe, who used to throw footballs to at Pacific. He says hello. I talked to him this morning. Yeah,
my God.
Yeah, I know. So I have a calling question, so to speak, Colin. Are you ready for the first one?
Yeah, bring it on.
The first question comes from a good pal of mine, a mentor in many ways, Coach Chris Barr, a lifetime local youth and high school football coach here in the South Bay in LA, and he's currently serving on the board of the prestigious Inglewood Youth Football League. And he has a couple questions. Man, I asked him this morning, he gave me a laundry list. But he says, number one, do you feel that Black coaches get a fair opportunity in the NFL?
So no, I don't. I'll be the first to answer that, and I'll answer that very quickly. This is a 101-year history of the National Football League, and there's only been 19 minority head coaches. So
minority.
That tells you
minority, not even just not Black, yes. Not minority.
Yeah, minority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that tells you something. I mean, that's a problem. 101-year history, and we're only talking about 19. And I've done it twice, and so it's hard. And I think it's unfortunate that we haven't jumped those barriers to where there's no problems that way now. And they still exist, and they will until people really dive in and understand what the problems are. And I think that's where the biggest problem is. We don't know what the problems are. We kind of say we do, but we don't. It's just my opinion. That's one man's opinion. And it will be my opinion until I see it change. But I just don't think we do enough of understanding the past to understand what we need to do in the future.
What is the mix, if you're going to be look at a NHC as a representation, shouldn't it be a representation of the populace of the team? So I'm going to ask you, because I don't even know, but I imagine it's the majority of the teams are black. So
Absolutely.
that would
It's flipped the other way in as far as players. It's 70% minority and 30%. Yes. And
okay.
so it's
So
totally,
that makes,
and now it's the other way.
Why wouldn't it then why wouldn't it be black? Is there just to kind of think it through, is there some sort of delay? You know, are there are colleges starting to get more talent black-wise or no?
It's just as bad in college.
It's just as
It's just the world we live in. It's might be even a little worse in college because there's more numbers, you know. So
right. Do you have any solution in mind other than just start hiring, you know, purely just saying I'm going to hire a black guy?
I do. I do. I've made this. This is not new. I went and spoke to a committee that asked me the same question, and I said, first of all, we need to go back and start and look at the history and where it started. Minority men were first, they wasn't even able to play, let alone coach. It took to get an injunction for the first minority player to ever play in the National Football League. It was almost 40 years after that before the first minority head coach was a head coach. So let's just be honest, that wasn't seen as right. I mean, men of color were not seen as coaches, and we're not going to be in leadership positions. So to me, if you're going to fix it, now is the time to be more intentional. So the only way to do that is if there's 4 jobs open, you got to give 2 to minority coaches, 2 to Caucasian coaches, because we have a way of making sure that we check and balance everything else. So the league implemented the taking the head out of the game, right? So because of concussions. And they went and did a 4-year study, and it showed that this is true. The more you work at taking your head out, concussions go down. Well, why can't we do the same when it comes to minority hiring? There's going to be some guys that do really well. There's going to be some guys that don't do well, but at least you'll have the data to look and say, we're trending and moving in the right direction. And more than that, everything would look fair. And to me, that's truly what it's all about, appearing to be fair.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I think you just kind of answered it, but how do you feel about the Rooney Rule having to be established in order for black coaches to get an opportunity to be interviewed?
Well, there it is. I mean, why do we have to have a rule? I mean, that within itself tells you that there is a problem. Right. And to me, and people don't want to even admit that. So you're telling me there's a problem because you're telling me I have to implement something to make you interview. I didn't say hire. I say interview a man of color. Okay, so you've already you're already telling me that we're not on the same playing field. It's not level. So we know through all of these hirings, there's going to be some outliers. I mean, whether I was an outlier or Marvin Lewis or whoever, there were some outliers that made it because maybe it was time they needed to make sure that somebody made it. But at the same time, I just don't think that's fair. And I think that's already a problem before you ever walk into the situation.
It's already baked in.
Absolutely.
So to play devil's advocate, shouldn't the best coach be chosen? So the implication is that well, there's no black best coaches, right? If I say that, but there are.
Oh yeah, there are. But just like there's best white coaches. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I think it's if you look at where all the coaches are housed in the National Football League or even in college football, you know, minority coaches coach running backs, wide receivers, defensive backs, linebackers.
Oh no way.
And oh yes, it is. There's only three minority quarterback coaches in all the National Football League today.
Really?
So yeah. So where are they going to come from?
Okay.
That's what the problems are. So my point is, so it's a reverse discrimination. So you're telling me a Caucasian coach can't coach the running backs or the wide receivers or the defensive backs or the linebackers? That's not true. So it like you said, it's been baked in, and that's the way it's been. So I've always said this to people: just because it's been right and everybody sees it as right, don't mean it is. Just because you've been doing it this way for so many years, it doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do. So when are you going to change this? When are you going to really stick some teeth into this and make a difference by saying, wait a minute, this is not right. We need to flip all of this and make it better.
Wow. Wow, that's deep. I didn't know we were going to go there. That's good stuff, man. I appreciate it. So Chris also asked, who guided you to be the offensive guru that you are today?
Who guided me to be offensive guru? I don't know that anybody guided me. I always give a lot of credit to John Gruden because he taught me football. I was a wishbone quarterback, as you know. And when John Gruden came to town, I'll never forget him bringing me in the office. He had me get on the board. I wrote something up. It was totally wrong. And I never get it. He told me, he says, if you stay here with me, every night we'll grind and I'll teach you football. And that's what we did. And when you start to get that thirst, you become hungry for more. Yeah. And that's the reason why I really left Pacific to go to Cal State Fullerton. I wanted to learn because I had so much knowledge. I wanted to go share with somebody else. I was done sharing with the guys I was with. I needed more. So I needed an audience to watch me share what I knew. And it seemed like they were really into it because they didn't know what I knew. So that became the charge for me. And so you start learning and picking up things as you go. But at the end, it's got to become who you are. And so
you got to internalize it.
It became my offense. And so I'm proud of that.
Good for you. That's brilliant. And how cool at the start of your career, you get to get mentored by John Gruden. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't even know he was at Pacific, honestly, because I had gone by that time. And so what are your plans to restore Grambling State University to its prominence?
Oh, as fast as I can, because I truly believe it should be. We need to change the culture. I mean, you go back and look at its history, and I'm a big history buff that way. And I have one of the greatest teachers to learn from is Eddie Robinson, one of the greatest coaches that's ever coached, whether it was my HBCUs, it didn't matter. He won more games than anybody. And so to be able to come behind him and walk in those shoes and walk down that hill into the hole and coach in an environment where this guy used to coach, you better believe that there's a lot of pressure on me to get this right. They didn't hire me just for fun. They hired me to get the culture right and to get to winning. So I'm doing any and everything that I can to produce that. And it's truly about, one, educating our players about the history, making sure our players do great in class, and then make sure that we're doing great on the football field.
When I saw that you got the job, the first thing I thought of is you in his shoes. And as a teammate, I was proud. I was like, wow, man, so huge, man. I got another question. You good for another one?
No, yeah, absolutely.
This is from Al Smith. And Al, I'm going to show you some. I didn't show, this is a surprise, this picture. Okay, that's Pacific Stadium. Let me line up here. That's Pacific Stadium. That's Al Smith, who was at Utah State at the time. And if I can get my big fat head out of the way, where are you?
No.
Are you, did it show up? Oh, there you are. I don't know which. Okay. You're the quarterback of Pacific right there. So I just wanted to put this together. And Big Al played for Utah State, as you see there. He played Houston Oilers for 10 years and in the front office over with the Titans for a long time. So first question he asked for you is, what was it like playing against me?
Wow. Well, I mean, Al's still a good friend today. Matter of fact, he has a son who's also a football player. And I wanted to recruit his son. His son, I think, is going to go play at Tennessee State. And I see Al a lot. He came out to practice quite a bit. First of all, he's a phenomenal man, great family. But what a football player he was. But on that particular night, Tim, we gave them the business. Okay, yes, we won this game. And I'll never forget having a big run for a touchdown. But he was physical, fast, tough, just like he was in the National Football League, one of the best players, one of the best linebackers I've ever played against. But he is a tremendous man, and I'm glad to call him friend.
That's awesome. Did you ever coach against him as a player?
Yes, many a times. And
Yeah.
he was whooping our tails.
How do you prepare for different individuals?
Well, you do everything you can to understand their strengths and weaknesses, obviously. Then that's the whole thing about the National Football League. The detailed coaching is on a whole different level because of the matchups that you have. It's such a matchup game. It's Al Smith against the offense and the offensive coordinator and this particular quarterback. That's what people don't understand. The defenses in the National Football League are trying to defeat the quarterback. Because they beat the quarterback, they win the game. Okay. And you take their best players out of the game. So if there's a skilled receiver, they're going to do everything they can to not let him have his best day, or a skilled running back or tight end. And when those guys are having a great day, like last night, Kansas City Chiefs got, okay, then you scratch your head and say, what didn't we do? Because that guy shouldn't beat you. Somebody else should beat you. If you lose by somebody else winning, you can live with that. But if you lose with that guy beating you, then that's a problem.
Interesting. He had another question. Maybe you can go into more detail on it. He asked, is there any added pressure coaching at such a prestigious university? How are you, if I can dig into his question a little more, how do you prepare right now? You just got there, right? How do you got to move, you got to do all that stuff. How does somebody in your position prepare taking over a program and adding in those things that you're talking about?
I think you have to have a process. You have to have a process, and you have to make sure what's important to you. And there's a lot of things that are important to me. One is making sure we create the right environment for our players. I'm really big that when you change coaches, you got to change things. And sometimes that means even changing people. You got to change colors of locker rooms. You got to change. Nothing should look the same because there's a change. And I think when things are the same, guys become comfortable and they fall right back into the comfort of the losing. And I just don't believe, yes. And I don't believe in that. So I change things very quickly. I've already flipped the locker room for offense and defense. You just have to. I mean, oh geez, my thing is my power thing is not working very well. It's dying. I might have to put it on my phone. That's what you do. And so you have to change things. You change coaches, you change routines, you change mindsets. You got to erase the tape and start over, because there's a new thing coming. So, and you got to feel comfortable being able to do that. So
are you into full scale recruiting already?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I hit the ground running. Yes, sir.
How are you, I'm a youth coach. I don't know these things. So how do you know who to go after?
Well, everybody has a list to start with, but what's important for me is I have a profile of what I want a player to be at every position. And that's what we look for. I don't think talent fits everywhere. I think you have to find what fits your style of offense, defense, and special teams. That's the way you're going to have success. Now, there are outliers, no question, but you have to go get what you need to be successful, not what somebody else thinks you need to be successful.
You're getting into this, and it's perfect for the next question. We hear people in coaching talk about philosophy. I think Pete Carroll's big on that, another Pacific guy, by the way. And you hear core values, you hear the pyramid from John Wooden, and I think everything comes from John Wooden, if I had to guess. But what is your philosophy? What and how does that go into the culture? I think you mentioned culture that you want to create.
Oh yeah, well, I think culture is everything. You get culture before you ever get wins, and we're a disciplined group on and off the field first and foremost. If guys can't do the little things, they're not going to do the big things on the field. That is so true. And there's guys who just love football, don't want to go to class, but that guy loves football. I guarantee at some point in time in the second quarter or the fourth quarter, he's going to miss something because he can't follow through. So we have a set of things that are important. It's discipline, it's effort, it's grit. I'm looking for gritty guys. I want to create grit and I want to create toughness every chance I can within my program. And competition breeds a lot of those things that we're talking about. So a player is put under a certain amount of stress to find out if he can handle it because it's tough. and everybody can't do it, but I need to know who can and who can't.
Do you have a list or a checklist of core values or anything like that that equates to that culture?
Oh,
How does it all fit together?
To me, it fits together. And Tim, I think I need to go on this other side because this thing's going to die because it won't take my cord.
I had the same thing happen to me the other day.
So I'm going to turn this one off. You got to let me in.
Oh, so you're a pro at this. Okay, we're recording.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. So
yes,
I think, yeah, oh yeah, no, we have a real checklist of things, and it's, obviously it starts with guys being accountable and being on time. And first of all, you put those guys through that test. Then it becomes the thought process of how they do things each and every day. So you create a routine for a player. And if a player will fall out of that routine, he's probably not for us. Okay. The player who doesn't get up in the morning because he felt a little sick and wouldn't go to class, he's probably not for me. I'm a real stickler on do what you mean, do what you say, and make sure you get it done that way. And if you don't, and I'm the same way with our coaches, there's no different. You have to have that kind of mentality. And I will tell you this, Tim, it takes a lot of effort. So people don't understand the head coaches, they travel a lonely road. You're not one of the boys,
right.
Because you're part of the group, but you're above the group. So you can't let things slide. And the buck stops with me when it comes to everything. It's like right now, I can give you a little story. We're recruiting players and the coaches are saying, well, let's offer this guy based on, and I've had a couple coaches offer guys. And I go, whoa. No, I have to see the player and make that offer because it's going to be the player that I have to sign off on. You may like him, I may not. There might be something in the ointment that I'm just not wanting. And guys have to understand that. And that's how it works. And it seems like you're micromanaging, but you're not. I'm creating the right environment for all involved so we don't fall off the cliff. That's
interesting because that gets into management, right?
Yes.
You're a CEO of your business right there, right? I've often said that a lot of professional coaches are at college or NFL are in many ways better business people than business people. In the attention to detail and so many, like you said before, micro trainings and disciplines that you have to pay attention to. Is your style different than any of your bosses that you worked for as an HC when you're the assistant? You got a little bit of a different buck stops here than versus you having as an assistant a lot of leeway where you can make a lot of decisions. Where's it begin and end?
I'm sure it is a little different. I think it begins with what kind of team you have. Do you have a veteran team, guys who's been through the wars that understand, and the guys you have great leadership within your team? Or do you have a team, and normally when you take over a team, you're there because the culture's bad. There's things that just aren't working. And so there's been little silos, made within groups. And so you have to break those down and you have to make sure there's no silos that go on. And the only way I know to do that is have singleness of purpose. Here it is. This is how it's done. This is how we do it. This is not how you do it. This is how we do it. And this is the way it's going to be done. And when you have a leader that will demand that will make sure and hold people accountable to that, in my mind, great things happen.
When did you develop that mentality?
Over time. I think, when you get your first opportunity to coordinate, I've worked for some extremely good head coaches and I've learned both ways. And I think my mentality, because of the role that I play in, because I take it a little bit deeper, when I talk about being one of the 19 in a 101-year history, you have to take that really seriously, because I'm carrying the weight of not just for me, but I'm carrying the weight for them as well. So
And
my
I never
time,
thought of that, by the way. I didn't,
yeah,
I appreciate you saying that, because I never,
yeah,
as a white guy, that never went through my head. So I appreciate you
right.
saying that.
That's okay. So my time in Cleveland was difficult, very difficult, because you're losing.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the reason is, you're losing, and you know that you're carrying that next coach that has a chance. And for people to say, well, no, they're not going to look at him that way. Oh, yes, they are, because there's not been very many of us anyway. So they're going to look at him that way. So it's really tough when those things happen that way, and you have to find a way to reprogram yourself to get on the other side of it.
Are you a player's coach? Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever that means. I think I'm a little bit of both. I think I'm a little bit of both. That's what it is. I'm a player's coach when it comes to making sure if they need something, I'm there to help and assist. I'm not a player's coach when I'm sticking my foot square up their butt, because they're not playing well. Right. And I have no problem telling the best player, you're playing like crap, to the last player, you're playing like crap, because at the end of the day, it's a performance-based business.
That's probably a little bit different on the pro side versus the college side, correct or no?
Well, on the pro side, I know they tell them, because they have to. On the college side, this portal is creating a headache for coaches, because if I don't play and if I don't like what you say, I can go get in the portal and go someplace else where somebody's going to take my crap. And so I don't care. I mean, I'm going to be me and do it the way I do it. And hopefully our players appreciate it and understand it. And if I lose because all the guys jumped into the portal, then this wasn't for me, because we're going to do it the right way.
Amen on that. How do you go about then, especially now with the portal and all this craziness? Oh, it's already been tough. How do you go about motivating a player? What is your process to get people going?
I think you create the environment every day. You can't motivate anybody if you're not motivated yourself, right? So first, you got to bring it yourself so they can and want to be motivated. It's not just some speech right before practice or after practice. It's your passion. It's who you are each and every day, that they see that determination, that desire, that discipline of doing it every day. That, man, coach is not going to be up and down. He's going to be consistent. He has an expectation, and we got to meet it every day.
Is there a mindset that you sort for when you're recruiting? Can you pick that kid out that has that motivation?
Oh, yeah. I had a kid just recently sit in my office who was struggling, come from a tough background, has some little brothers and sisters. And I remember offering him a scholarship and watching his face as the tears rolled down. Really? And he may not even go to Grambling. He may go to Alabama, where he's a 5-star. But to feel his closeness and his heart told me that this kid's going to make it, because he's going to be so determined to be the best at what he's done, because he's been through so much. In my mind, he sees his way out as football, and that's all he knows, and that's all he's going to make happen. So I get it, and sometimes that is the only avenue for certain guys. I respect that.
I had the benefit of meeting and knowing Jim Mora for a couple of years. So I had a lot of access. I had him on the podcast a couple of years back, coached his kid, that's why. But one of the things I asked him was about is there a ceiling? And the way he said it, the way he sets it in his head was on a ceiling on ability. He goes, there's tangibles and intangibles, which I imagine would resonate with you. I mean, some guys like Al Smith in the picture, I mean, he was benching 315, I think, sophomore year in high school. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's just, I couldn't match that, right? No matter how, I mean, he was born with certain testosterone. I don't know what it is, but the intangibles, what can you do to make a guy better than what he is? When I come in as an 18-year-old player or whatever it is, age, when I leave Grambling, how do I get, how much, besides just natural and that, but how do I use this to get better? Is there a way?
Oh, and there's a way, because you're going to walk into Grambling as a young man. And I appreciate the parents that are going to allow us to have their sons and trust us with their sons or daughters. But when they leave, when they do leave, they're going to be men, because we're going to create the right environment for them to be men. And you don't create men with the sweetheart approach. You create men with the tough approach, and you make it hard. And it's got to be very hard, because life is hard. And you have to give them those examples. And I'm a living example of it. I grew up on 52nd and Hoover. I grew up in a gang infested area. I worked my tail off. I had a brother that went to prison. I've seen it all. I mean, I've witnessed anything and everything that you can think about, but I never got away from what I wanted to accomplish. And I still didn't know what it was, but I knew it was going to be something better than what I saw. And I just knew that there was a right and a wrong. And if I did wrong and you get on the other side of the law, you might not make it back. And if you do right, you have a chance to have good things happen in your life. And so that's the first thing, is right and wrong, and how not to lie and be held accountable and do things the right way, and understand there's consequences, legitimate consequences when you do things wrong. You know, you can lose your job. You can lose an opportunity. You can lose your life if you don't handle things right. And so football is not life and death, but football is as close to a battlefield as you can get in real time.
Man, how do I sign, Coach? I want to play for you. Hey, so that takes me to the next question. Pretend I'm a top 5-star, and you just said, I wasn't sure if I was using, when I did the question, if I was constructing the right measuring stick. So there is a 5-star. But let me go there. What's the difference between a 5-star and a 4-star and a 3-star, if there are such?
I don't know. I don't care about stars. I care about, can they play for me? You know,
play.
Can they play football at a high level for me? And Amen. To me, that's what matters to me more than anything.
That's awesome. So I got a 5-star. I'm a kid. I'm 18 years old, and I'm getting heavily recruited. I'm Alabama, since you mentioned it, is calling. Why should I go to Grambling? Okay, here's your elevator pitch. Why should I go to Grambling? Especially, I'm a white guy, and all I've heard about Grambling is black dudes.
Mm-hmm. Because first of all, we don't see color. We see a football player and a person, and we're going to create an environment for you. There it goes. We're going to create an environment for you to be the best you can be on and off the field. And that is what we're truly all about. We're really about growing our men, creating great men that when they leave Grambling, that they're prepared to handle any and everything that happens in the world, that you will have experienced the highs, the lows, the whatever you want to call it in between right here. Okay, whether it's in the weight room, on the field, in the classroom, or away from the classroom. And we're going to walk you through each and every one of them. And the only thing that will get you on the other side of this, where you lose our help, is if you don't have effort for it. You have no stomach for it. It's not important to you. Then we will move on. But other than that, we are giving you one of these pieces of gold because we think you have the characteristics that we look for in G men. That you're tough, that you're accountable, that you're a hard worker, that you understand that there's team, that nothing is above or beyond the team. And if you can handle those things, you can come play for us.
Where's the paper, Coach? I'm signing it right now, baby. Hey, let's end this a little lighter. I remember you said something earlier, and I remember, and I've told for years, by the way, this story, and it's obviously not true, but it's a cool story. And I remember that LaShawn Wells and myself threw a party because a bunch of recruits were coming, and so let's have a big party and have fun and blah blah blah. And Hue Jackson was there, and I remember talking with you. And one of the things, you were very transparent. You're talking about growing up in LA and your brother, and also, again, memory's fuzzy. I'm getting old, but you said something to the effect, I think, that you like to go fishing with your dad. True?
Very true.
That's right. So I'm gonna ask you, what do you do in your off time? I know you college guys, pro guys are busy like all the time, but when you take some time, what do you like to do?
I like to really go lay on a beach. I have really begun to enjoy that as I've gotten a little older. Just the calmness of hearing the water really takes me to a place of relaxation. And I just think as I've gotten older, it used to be go work out 2 times a day. It's got to be really enjoy me, it's not about looking this part or doing that, man. It's about making sure you're in a good place mentally, physically, and emotionally, and ready to handle, because it's a long season. It's tiring. There's ups and downs. There's stress, pressure, all that. You have to be able to deal with that at a high level.
That's beautiful. What would you tell 19-year-old Huey that he should do in life and in the future?
Listen more. Really stop to listen. I was always, I'm going to show you. I think listening more, I would have found more clues on how to be even better than what I am today. I'm a type A personality. I know that. I'm an alpha, and I'm going to go smash it. And, I have some cerebral in me as well, but I'm going to go attack it, and that's just who I've been all my life. But I've learned in my older years now to slow down a little bit, really listen and see things for what they are. And then let's make a decision.
I had another question. I'm going to change it midstream.
Now, Tim, Tim, not to cut you off, but I got to go in a minute because I have an ESPN spot I have to do.
Well, they're more important.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Last question.
My AD will say it's important.
Last question.
Yes.
What would you tell your 12-year-old cousin who wants to be like you to do?
Do it. Go do it. Go be the best you of me that you can be. Don't mean you're going to be me. You got to do it within your own personality and with your own thought process. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't be. There's a whole bunch of potential future head coaches that's going to watch this. And if that's what you want, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Go be it.
Hue Jackson, you are an inspiration. I appreciate you, and all you do, you keep doing it, and have a very successful time at Grambling. They're lucky to have you, sir.
Thank you, Tim. And I'm lucky to have you as a friend.
So thank you. Thank you so much.